Oi, yeah, wrongin'. Welcome to the Theatre of the Mind live number 219 this evening for a Thursday. It's just one of those where we've been having a very, very deep dive into 9/11 over the last three evenings, as well as Ghetto Defendant telling us about digital IDs on Sunday. So I felt we still needed one more live to get all the information out. And what I'm hoping to do is edit all of the 9/11 bits and pieces into one long form video so that it's there and you can tell other people. It may end up being quite a few hours, but it will have everything in there. And tonight I'm going to give you the executive summary. So I'm going to tell you everything about everything about everything. So that's what we're doing tonight. I will get to the sermon in a moment because there's loads of stuff going on. There's loads of fantastic stuff going on. But as ever, we'll go to the body of the Kirk and we will talk. Sister Mary's got the night off. So if there's no altar wine and no Battenberg, have a word with the Choir Boys. Have you ever seen the film, The Choir Boys? Fantastic film. It's where the phrase diamond cutter comes from. Oh, what do you mean, Reverend? Well, the bishop and I were having a chat with Sister Mary about her enjoying the bishop's finger. And I said to her, have you ever seen the film, The Choir Boys, Sister Mary? And she said, oh, no, Reverend. No, I haven't. Is it a thriller? I said, no, it's robust, ribald, and it's full of smut. Oh, I say, she says, what kind of smut? And I said, well, there's a euphemism, Sister Mary. I'm not going to give you the full details, but there's a euphemism. It's called a diamond cutter. Oh, why is that? I said, because a diamond's the hardest thing known to man. Ba-dum-tsh. Still didn't get the gag. Hello, the bishop did guffaw a little, and as I'm one to not bash the bishop, I won't go any further with that. So welcome to the body of the Kirk this evening, Thursday night, live 219. Les Griffiths is in the body of the Kirk. I don't know why you did. Les, and thank you for the contact earlier. It's been a busy old day. It's going to be a busy old weekend. So I'm going to sort of sit down and go through all my emails Saturday. Des Ashton, welcome to the body of the Kirk. Des, yeah, wrongin'. He says, good day, wrong'uns. As we cool down from swelter, Max, time to think of those less fortunate or perhaps not sharing Battenberg requires great care. Remember, some just can't handle it. Well, I have noticed that the Battenberg is getting a bit of a wilt on, and I do believe that in this summer heat, the August summer heat, the Battenberg tends to split. The jam doesn't keep the Battenberg together. So if you've got a jammy Battenberg, it still tastes the same. Les Griffith says, the tension in the country is growing. Something has to give soon. I agree, Les. I do. Can you not remember when Diana was murdered and they were going to bury her on the Saturday? The country got to, the Queen was up in Balmoral. She was like, oh, what's going on in the country? Nothing, mummy, nothing. Just ignore the plebs. And the country was quite fractious. And it was only when we got to Friday, I was on air for Fayed and in his Liberty 963, and I did Songs for a Princess on the Friday night. I had people calling me up on the radio station, weeping and wailing. And it was only once we had the funeral on the Saturday and stuff was said, and because funerals are for the living, they're not for the dead. And funerals are there to help people, the living, get some succor. Not that I want to go down this particular route this evening on the live, but once we had the funeral, once the nation had given their respects, because I think there was literally every person was in a house or somewhere watching. There wasn't a car or a person on the street. And again, it's like that. There's something in the air. August is hang on, when did she die? 97? So 25, 28 years. 28 years. Princess Diana is dead. 28 years. That's scary. But I agree with you, Les. There's something in the air. We're going to talk about something like that tonight. You know me. So welcome to the Body of the Kirk. Les, there were so many patients in the GP surgery awaiting their jabs this morning. It was literally standing room only. There's no legislating for the dumb, Les. I mean, it's not like they can't see the same things that we see, and it's not like they don't understand what is actually going on. Oh, you want your Charlie 19 and your winter flu jibber jabber? No. In the words of the great Chinese philosopher, you can foxtrot Oscar. I still get texts from me GP surgery, and I keep texting back saying, how much money do you make from them? Oh, no, it's benefit of the patients. Aye, right. How do we end shite, man? It's all about the Benjamins. It's all about the greenbacks. It's all about making the bloody money. We're just cattle, man. So that's why I say no. I once had a flu jab, and I was ill for bloody weeks. I just thought, I'm not having it. My body is my temple. It's sacrosanct. I have sovereignty over my body, so you can foxtrot Oscar, said a spokesperson. So, Les, I hope it wasn't too bad for you, the GP surgery. Des Ashton, everyone can head out the door looking for another prick in Whitehall. Have you seen the video, Des? Just somebody sent it to me today. Thank you, Chris. And I roared because it's Pink Floyd, another brick in the wall. It's kind of a play on that, and it's another prick in Whitehall. Go on X. You'll find it on there. You might find it on YouTube, but I doubt it. No, probably not. Tom Harney's evening, or as a wrong philosopher once said, never mess with another man's Battenberg. That's very funny, Tom. That's very funny. Thank you. Welcome to the Body of the Curtain. Fatal Racing Driver is among the flock, among the congregation, early doors. Hello, Fatal Racing Driver. Welcome to the Body of the Kirk. Stuart, evening, Rev. Sorry I missed the live last night. Yes, slacker. Was working late. I watched on catch up and it was educational. Great as always. Thank you, Stuart. Look after yourself, sir. I know you do work hard. And then join us in the Body of the Kirk, part of the throng. And you are most welcome, young sir. Most welcome. Les Griffiths, the Rev will be in great voice tonight. How did you know that, Les? You're wrong. Have you put something in me hibiscus while I wasn't looking? Sister Mary is posting that she's pished as a fart. I told you, Les. We've had to let her go lie down. I think it was the phrase diamond cutter that did her. It wasn't the 6 pints of, or the odd bishop's finger. Paulie Galtieri, good evening, Adrian. Yeah, utter wrong evening, Paulie. How are you doing, young sir? Where are we? Cool, blimey, it's rattling through. Ghetto defendant. I say it. You could say that, Andrew James, but I can't possibly comment. Wonderful. Napoleon Bonaparte. Welcome to the Body of the Kirk from, the other side of the pond. You're going to love tonight, because it's all been kicking off today and tomorrow in Alaska. So we're going to do some of that tonight. It's wonderful. Good evening, you Rogan. This is a real treat. Steady. Napoleon Bonaparte. Rusty's Roamings. Evening all. Evening, Rusty's Roamings. Vix Tex loves a bit of Pink Floyd. Me too. But, I mean, when did... I was going to do something on one of the lives the other night. I was going to do albums that defined a decade. And I remember some of my... Because obviously I'm a classically trained cellist. And in school, I kind of got away with some of my music lessons because I just used to say to the teachers, sir, I've got some stuff to practice. Do you mind if I go in? You go in the practice rooms, young Alan. Yes, you can get away with that. But I'm sure it was Dark Side of the Moon. Was that 71? Dark Side of the Moon. 54 years later. I mean, holy Jesus. 50 years. Who would have thought that we would live 50 years, let alone be looking backwards going, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. Hang on, where's young Sandra gone? We're days. I know you've started your season, Sandra, not to rub it in. Honestly, not to rub it in. Hello, sorry missed yesterday. I was in Birmingham, and what a goal from Hamer, halfway line, stunner. Was that the Blades, Sandra? Oh, I'll have to check that out. It's not, I mean... There's nothing in the the sports pages of the dailies about Sunderland, because obviously we're not good enough. We're just Johnny come latelys into the Premiership. We've got Granit Xhaka, and we're just one more striker, and I think then we'll be done. But I do wish you well, and I always look out for Sheffield United every single day if there's a game on, and definitely at the weekend, knowing what I know. And I always think about you, Sandra. So I've got my fingers crossed that you join us in the Premiership. Fingers crossed we can stay up there. But you definitely deserve the way you played last season. You definitely deserve it. You're smooth talking, Bar Stewart, Bar Stewart. Honestly, I'm wasted on you. Do you not get that? I'll always make time for you, Rev. Yes, smooth talking, Bar Stewart. Keep up, everybody. So the sermon from the pulpit of truth this evening is. I'm now laughing at my own gags. That's a bad comedian. So tonight, the sermon, we're probably going to get somewhere towards rounding off the final piece of the 9/11 puzzle tonight, round about 8ish. We're going to talk about the Liverpool driver. I'm going to give you the lowdown. We'll talk about Charles the Weak. Do you know, I have not stopped laughing all day. Poor little Sniffy. Hello? Who's there? Sniffy? Sniffy who? Sniffy. Oh, you can't come into number 10? Oh, no, we've dispensed with you. We've washed and laundered all of our money. We don't need you, you wrongin'. Go and take the wife to Bugatti in Paris and buy her another car. Yes, your day is over. Go and run your hotel in Eilat, Israel, remember? Because you know Zelensky's a Jew, don't you? You do know, don't you? So that's why he's going to Eilat, Israel. He'll get protected by Mossad and the Israeli government. Because everybody's been laundering their money through Ukraine. Oh, I say. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Melania and Hunter Biden. I think... young Hunter Biden actually shit himself today. Not first, runs in the family. So Melania, as in First Lady Melania, has said to Hunter Biden, "Oi, mate, not happy with what you've said, so sort it out, otherwise we're going to sue you for $1 billion because they can afford it." And Hunter's like, I'm happy to discuss it. I bet you are, mate. Just don't take the crack on the hookers. Might upset people. Whatever happened to his Hunter's laptop? I'll guarantee the FBI's just, no, doesn't exist. No, it's gone. Well, Hunter is in a pan shite. Runs in the family. Shite. So we're going to talk about, we'll get to Ukraine and the final spoils in just a moment. Now that it's ear levels today, we're going to talk about white working class kids because they're getting shafted. I'll let you make your own gags up. But before we get to the Liverpool driver, I've said to you, write to your MP about digital ID because they are all 50p sixpence. Their backsides are putting like a rabbit's nose because they're scared witless that we find out. Now, I told you, August 21st is the deadline. There's an inquiry that's been going on since June. It ends on August 21st. After August 21st, you will not have a say at all in any way, shape or form around digital ID, around anything that these crooks are doing. That includes Tony Blair. Oh, Charles Linton, by the way. Charles Linton, if you've never heard of him before, just Google it with Bow Street Magistrates. You'll soon find out who he is and what he was up to. Hello. I don't come here often, but I help out when it gets busy. If you know, you know. I'm not going to explain it. I'll end up in jail. So I'm going to read, and thank you to everyone that emails me some fantastic information. I will keep this email anonymous because I can't really get anyone into trouble. But just in case they get a bit iffy, these MPs, the moronic people, I'm just protecting everyone. So if you do get a reply from your MP, which you should do, send it on. I'll read it out. So to the anonymous gentleman that is a regular to the body of the Kirk, thank you for this. And this is the email he received from his local MP. Hello, Mr. So-and-so. Yeah, utter wrong artistic license. Thank you for contacting me. I understand you have concerns, and I'm reading this verbatim, apart from the wrong reference. It's verbatim. I understand you have concerns about the use of digital ID. I want to assure you, I recognise the importance of making sure any digital tools we use are secure. It's a comedy opening there. Preserve people's privacy and work for everyone. I agree with you that digital ID should not be made mandatory. As your MP, I support people being able to continue to use non-digital systems if they want to in every situation. I note that nothing on the Data Use and Access Act will change this. The use of non-digital IDs will not be affected, and I am assured by the government that traditional physical documents such as driving licenses will remain available. At the same time, I believe this important legislation will ensure that anyone who wants to use digital ID services can do so with confidence. Its provisions will free up vital time for frontline workers and relieve people from unnecessary and time-consuming tasks. In addition, it includes strong safeguards to ensure people's data is properly protected. Now, with regard to ID cards, I can confirm that the government has no plans to introduce them at this time. More widely, I am committed to ensuring that technologies are safely developed and deployed across the country, with their benefits more widely shared. Thank you once again for contacting me about these important issues. With very best wishes, Kim Ledbetter, MBE, MP for Spen Valley. So that sounds quite positive, but then again, they said they weren't going to increase taxes on national insurance, and then they did, and this is the Labour government. So I reserve the right to be a cynical old tart. But that's actually quite a positive email. But is it mission creep? Is it just kind of gently until they get there, and it's like whack? Everybody's got to have it. They were saying in the House of Commons, the Pink Palace, the Ozempic Palace, that all they were going to do was they weren't going to bring it in, and then they were going to bring it in, and Tony Blair's like, unique digital identifier exclusively revealed on this channel a year ago. And they have to be very careful because they don't want to upset the rabble. Now, I was watching a podcast a little earlier today, and it was around aliens, because in my view, I can't be confident that there's no such thing. I can't be confident. Interdimensional? My lord. So somebody asked the question, so why don't the government just go, there's aliens? Because of the job of any government, whether it's American or British, is protect the people first. Protect the people. Now, if you suddenly got some grey, or a bit like V, where they're all eating the cats and the rats, it would just end up with people would get scared. They would be uncontrollable, and there would be right-wing thugs on the streets, upsetting cars and setting them on fire. So all they're doing is they're just waiting for the precise moment where they need for aliens to appear. It's coming. Should we do deep dives? Should we get some folk on to interview, like we did with Ghetto Defendant on Sunday about digital ID? Should we get some proper knowledgeable people that know about aliens? I quite fancy that. So after, and thank you to the anonymous emailer. I hope you appreciate that I kind of had to read it out anonymously, but I do appreciate the contact and appreciate your email. Thank you very much. I did last night, for some inexplicable reason. I just said, whatever has happened to the Liverpool driver, because I didn't know he was at court today. Or did I? So I'm just going to, we have to be very careful because sub judice is active. So we can't talk about and give opinions. And I don't want you to give any opinions in the chat because they're your comments, not mine. and I've asked you not to. So just let the process of law take place with this. And let me read this to you, because it gives you a lot of detail that maybe you might not have known. I certainly didn't. I didn't know there was 134 people injured. But let me read it verbatim. Former Royal Marine Commando accused of deliberately driving his car into a crowd of Liverpool football fans at a victory parade wept in the dock as he made a court appearance today to face an additional 24 charges, including 2 relating to alleged victims who were babies. We know the male is called Paul Doyle. He's aged 53 and he's from Liverpool. He's charged with dangerous driving, causing grievous bodily harm with intent, after 134 people were injured when a Ford Galaxy struck fans on Water Street in Liverpool city centre on the 26th of May. When asked if he was Paul Doyle, he sounded choked as he responded, "Yes, I am." Father of 3, wearing a grey t-shirt, could be seen wiping his eyes. Now, Doyle was charged originally with 7 counts relating to 6 people, but this was increased to 31 counts before the hearing at Liverpool Crown Court. He's charged with 19 counts of attempting to cause grievous bodily harm, 7 counts of causing grievous bodily harm with intent, 3 counts of wounding with intent, 1 count of dangerous driving, and 1 count of affray. The charges now cover 29 alleged victims up to the age of 77, 6 of whom are children. Of the children, 2 are babies aged 6 and 7 months. The incident happened on the evening of the 26th of May as Liverpool fans were dispersing after an open-air bus parade through the city to mark Liverpool's Premier League title win. A large press contingent and a number of family members were present in court today for the 15-minute hearing. The Recorder of Liverpool, Judge Anthony Minari KC, rescheduled a plea hearing as Doyle's legal team had not had the opportunity to review key evidence that was to be presented to the court. The plea hearing will take place on the 4th of September. Earlier this year, a provisional trial date was fixed for the 24th of November. The trial is expected to last 3 to 4 weeks. So there's all the facts. As I say, please don't comment on this case because it's sub judice, and if you comment, you could be in front of the beak, and sub judice could end up with a bit of jail time. So that's why I've read it. That's being viewed by lawyers, and all it is containing the facts with no opinions whatsoever, just the facts. So we will obviously we'll follow that particular case. The outlaw says, "Yeah, I'm not going to comment on this. It's best not to. Thank you." Evening, Lord Wookford. Mephistopheles, no comment. Good. So we'll get to, I want to tell you about tomorrow, because I can't stop laughing. I literally can't stop laughing. So Ukraine, it's literally the carve-up. It's the final spoils. So Sniffy knocked on Starmer's door today. Oi, where's me fun boy 3? He's not invited to the carve-up tomorrow in Alaska. So Sniffy's like, is he going to 10 Downing Street to take his orders? Lord Wookford, I'm so pleased. No, I'm not going to tell you what. No. Just be lucky there's no such thing as Spangles. So Sniffy popped into number 10 today. He's not invited to the carve-up tomorrow in Alaska. So the Kremlin has announced that it's Trump and Putin. It'll be 1-on-1. Can you remember the video? 2 tribes go to war. There's nothing else that you can score. And it was, can you not remember the video? It was the American president and the Russian president, whose name, I mean, obviously the American president was Ronald Reagan, but I can't remember the Russian president who they were fighting. Before the UFC, they were fighting. So Putin and Trump will only have translators present during the talks tomorrow in Alaska. It's going to be bloody freezing. Alaska normally is, ish. And a press conference is set to follow without young Sniffy. I mean, can you imagine? Oh, lads. Hello, Sakia. They're not letting me in Alaska. I can't get there. What we're going to do? I've got some of that stuff that we had on the train still left. Do you want some Coca-Cola? Mate. Oh, well, yes, I'll take anything that's free. So Trump's going to offer Putin minerals for peace. The US president will propose money-making opportunities to encourage Russia to end the Ukraine war. I saw a video of the Russian military just lobbing some stuff over at the Ukraine, and it was just, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Modern warfare has changed vastly over the last 80 years. But they just lobbed all this stuff, and then there was silence and blackness. It was in the evening. There was just silence. There must have been thousands of missiles sent over into Ukraine, and then silence. And then you waited about 10 seconds or so, and then boom, the whole thing, bang, 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 bang. And I thought, well, that's the meat grinder. There's a few thousand people dead. Because Russia don't mess about, and Ukraine, they can charge the world as much money as they want. They're never going to win. But then again, they're never going to lose. So do they keep the meat grinder going when they've lost a generation of men that will not be able to father babies for the Ukrainian women? The Ukrainian women will leave and go around the world trying to find blokes to have kids with. Brilliant. Lord Wookfit, are you having to explain to Phil Levan what spangles were? Is that the euphemism, or is that genuinely the colour? Boris Yeltsin. Yeah, it might have been Super Ted. Sniffy's not allowed as he wants perpetual war for obvious reasons. Because, thank you, Kerry Hawkins, because we know that there are elements within his own army that want young Sniffy dead. So he don't want the war to end because, well, if you think how Russia operates and how Israel operates, is it going to be the communists against the Jews? Asking for a friend. So there's only going to be translators there. Hello, Donald, man, how are you, bonny lad? That's Russian. It's Russian. It's a greeting. Similarly to how do we end shite man Don? Somebody translate that for me. That was a little quick. Well, how are you, man Don? So what we're going to do? We're going to take the oil and the gas, and you're going to take the stuff in the ground. But that's the oil and the gas that's in the ground. I know, man, Donald. I was just asking for a friend. Translate that for me. And by the way, is Melania upset at Hunter Biden because of what Hunter Biden said? Yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later, Vladimir. So it's minerals for peace. That's how the mainstream media are versing it. Donald Trump will propose these money-making opportunities to encourage Russia to go enough. I mean, 2-tier Kia. Funboy 3, Starmer, said his coalition of the willing. What does that mean? What does that mean? Does it mean like everybody's happy on the choo-choo train? The coalition of the willing. I'm willing to have a little drink of Coca-Cola. Is that all right, Sakia? And he's saying that's Starmer because they all want to be relevant. They all want to go, I'm on the international stage. Dib-dabs. Bloody beautiful. Kerry, agree. Sherbet, dib-dabs. They just want to appear on the world stage as if they're relevant. They're not. They're Muppets. Starmer, Sniffy, they're Muppets because they're controlled by other people. The Donald and Vladimir, President Putin, we'll say President Trump and President Putin. They are both top of the food chain as far as international relations are concerned. Starmer and Sniffy, somewhere with their bloody snouts in the shit. Pun intended. So Starmer's trying to go coalition of the willing, and the Donald and Vladimir will be sitting there tomorrow going, hey, have you heard that shite coming out at number 10 in Downing Street? I mean, they think that they're relevant. No. Let's carve it up, Donald. What do we want? Do you want the oil, or do you want some of the oil, or do you want a bit of the gas? You have that. President Putin, translate that, and I'll have all the stuff in the ground because that's worth a load of money. Trump has warned Russia of severe consequences if Putin doesn't agree to end the Ukraine war. Now, look, if you're a regular viewer of the Theatre of the Mind, Sorry, I can't get Lord Wuckfit's reference to Spangles out my head for the moment. If you're a regular, you'll know that President Putin, Russia's President Putin, has been asking for peace for over a year. But, you know, it was the bloody Tories and Boris Johnson. He don't want peace. He wants the moolah. Always watch out for where the money's going. So there may be severe consequences, like what? If Putin doesn't agree to end the Ukraine war, what's Donald going to do? I'll send Joe Biden back. Will he shit his pants? Again. Yeah, I'll definitely send him you don't want him sitting next to you. Oh, blimey. Can you imagine the whiff? So the White House has characterised the Anchorage summit as a listening exercise. Listening to what? The translators harp on about what's the right word for shite in Russian and in American. Sorry, English. So the White House are downplaying expectations for a peace deal. Of course, it's a bloody peace deal. Zelensky is to meet some non-entity in number 10 Downing Street. And it's like, oh, Sniffy, come here. You come here. Don't mess with those nasty men, those presidents of the world, the top of the food chain, the decision makers. Don't let them upset you, young Sniffy. Just come to 10 Downing Street. I'll order the Fun Boy 3 in again and the 4 Tops. We'll have a party. Do you have a party? Oh, we love parties at number 10. Mind you, nobody admits to them. So Downing Street's provided little or no detail about what the pair will discuss. What? Starmer and Sniffy talk about what? The Premiership starting on Saturday. Because obviously, 3-tier, 4-tier, Fun Boy 3, 4 Tops, Keir Starmer, he's just looking forward to the footy season. Zelensky doesn't know what he's talking about. Ball control? What do you mean? I don't know. Ball control? Yeah, sphericals. My sphericals, your chin. I wonder who'll say that. But look, Sniffy's gone into number 10. Has he really? I mean, I'm not bloody interested. So Vladimir Putin and the Donald are going to meet up Anchorage, Alaska, to discuss a ceasefire in Ukraine. It's coming. But Russia and Putin want to link a cut in NATO troops because they don't want NATO to get anywhere near the Russian borders. Otherwise, it'll proper kick off. They'll just loose off some nuclear weapons. Now, Russia wants to include the topic of a reduction of NATO troops and their presence in any conversations about the future of Ukraine. The Polish Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, wasn't he in Steely Dan? So Russia and Belarus plan to hold joint military exercises. Oh, really? These presidents love a man in a uniform. Ask the Fun Boy 3. But Russia, I've told you, Russia are preparing to test nuclear-powered cruise missiles. Not winding you up. Despite the talks tomorrow between Sniffy and the Donald, Putin and the Donald, without young Sniffy, Russia have something called test nuclear-powered cruise missiles. So what's that? So this is a nuclear-powered missile that, in theory, could stay aloft for extended periods and evade missile defences. And these nuclear-powered cruise missiles have been in development for years. So Putin and the Donald, they'll be sitting there in Anchorage going, oh, Jesus, man, Vladimir, it's bloody freezing here. I've come from Florida. Can't you tell by me orange face? It's bloody freezing up here. Can you not get me some mink or something? Oh, here, get me some mink for Melania. She loves a bit of... Stop it, Adrian. Stop it. That's the First Lady. I shall stop that gag immediately. It made me laugh. That's all that matters. Talking of Melania, as I was, and her mink. Better than a ginger growler. Melania Trump is, It looks like that young Hunter, his laptop's gone missing. And young Melania has reacted to what Hunter Biden has said, and I'm going to tell you what it is. She said, right, yeah, wrongin'. She talks like that in private. Not in public, obviously. Stoic, Straight face. You get her with a bit of Prosecco and she'll like, hello, my name's Melania. Yeah, ramen. Do you watch Theatre of the Mind, by the way? That's Melania. She's a fan. So she's put Hunter Biden on a $1 billion notice over what she claims are false, defamatory, disparaging and inflammatory statements that Hunter Biden's made about her, demanding that he immediately remove and retract the content and issue an apology or face the legal action. So Hunter Biden, told you it runs in the family. Loose sphincter. He's responded by saying, well, if they want to sit down for a deposition and clarify the nature of the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein, if the president and the first lady want to do that, I'm more than happy to provide them the platform to be able to do it. In other words, oh, Jesus, I've just shit myself. Dad, does it run in the family? Can you imagine? We'll get to all the other stuff in just a little while. I was trying to get us as close to 8 o'clock as possible because I want to give you the final part of my deep dive this week. And as I explained over the last few nights, I'm going to give you evidence that, well, it's for you. This is not for me to give you your answers. This is me to give you evidence for you to make up your jigsaw puzzle. You can take stuff that you know, that you can bring to this, but it's not for me to tell you what to think. You're a critical thinker, you understand this, and I'm sure that you are aware of other stuff that happened on 9/11. So in this final part tonight, it's kind of an executive summary and hypotheses. So that's what I want to do for you. I'm just going to run through it. It won't take me anywhere near as long as Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, because there's easy between 7 and 8 hours worth of material there, and you will have to watch it a couple of times to extrapolate my research. Some of it was my personal research from on the day. Some of it's been recent research, but I've done a lot of work for you this week to get this in some semblance of critique that you'll get knowledge from and thereby understanding. So we'll start with the Pentagon attack. What really happened to the Pentagon attack? Well, the official story is that Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. But what they're claiming in the narrative is that a Boeing 757, American Airlines Flight 77, crashed into the Pentagon. Thing is, there was no plane wreckage. There's no engines, wings, seats, luggage, human bodies. Now, I know someone, a friend of mine, dear friend of mine, JTB. I'm making that reference for him, not for anybody else, so he knows who I'm talking about. He was first on the scene at Lockerbie. He was one of the first cops on the scene in Lockerbie, and he said to me, Adrian, you cannot comprehend what we found. He said there was body parts strewn with luggage, with fuselage, and he said it was one of the most horrible things that he's had to face in his time as a cop. And I said, but we didn't really see any of that on the reportage. He said, no, the TV companies wouldn't have showed you that. He said, literally, for miles and miles and miles, it was just body parts, luggage, and stuff that you don't want to repeat or see ever again. So with a 757 going into the Pentagon, no plane wreckage, no engines, wings, seats. They weren't even visible in initial photos. And the emergency service that would get there would if there was souls on board that Flight 77, they would have said, and they would have been witness to, body parts and luggage strewn everywhere. But they couldn't find any bloody plane wreckage. And the hole was too small. It's only 16 foot for a 125 foot wide 757. In the words of the great Chinese philosopher, Haraway and shite. So, would you say that there was evidence of a cover-up? I'll give you some idea. There was the Pentagon security footage, but only 5 frames were ever released. And blurry, no clear plane. You would imagine that, look, they could knock stuff out of the park just by going, there you go, the whole world, 757, we found fuselage, engines, body parts, luggage, we found everything. Although the hole into the Pentagon wasn't very big, we offer you this evidence. And they haven't. And all the other cameras around about at the Pentagon and the petrol station across the road, which everybody used working at the Pentagon, and it had CCTV, they were all confiscated by the FBI. Why is that then? And what about eyewitness testimonies? Now, some saw a small plane. Some saw a missile. There was a citizen investigator, like a citizen journalist, John Farmer. He recorded witnesses saying, it wasn't a commercial jet. There was a local taxi driver, a guy called Lloyd England, found a light pole cut cleanly, like a missile strike. Because if the part of my then research on the day, because remember I was going on air that night in South Wales, and I was under extreme pressure from the bosses of the radio station saying, look, Adrian, don't do your usual shite, man. It'll get us into trouble. I said, no, I'll just spit facts. I'll just talk about facts. So if the plane came down, there was light poles, street lamps, if you will, either side. And the plane would have literally cleaned those light poles in half. But it didn't. They were still standing. So that was from an eyewitness taxi driver at the scene on the day. All the evidence that Lloyd England could find would have been a missile strike. So if you look at Flight 77's absolutely impossible maneuver, I told you this last night, the final turn the aircraft made to go into the Pentagon, it dropped 7,000 feet in 2.5 minutes, nearly 3 minutes. It was a 330-degree corkscrew turn, beyond hijacker's skill level. You know what I'm saying there, don't you? I've already told you about Global Hawk. I've already told you about the planes that went into the towers were remote controlled by jet fighter pilots who were using the Global Hawk system to remote control fly those planes. Now, the pilots for 9/11 Truth have said that the maneuver was near impossible for a 757. The pilots for 9/11 Truth actually showed that the maneuver was near impossible for a 757. But as well as all that, we're going to get to the black box mystery. The FBI initially said no black box was found, and then later claimed it was recovered, but it was too damaged to read. So now let's look at some alternative theories. What about the missile strike? As I said yesterday, some evidence suggests a Global Hawk drone or missile. Now, maybe the military had advanced technology. We call it a drone now that Ukraine are using and Russia's using, and that's modern warfare. But 20 years ago, did the military have high-grade drones? They definitely had missiles. So a missile could actually have hit the Pentagon. And let's look at the no plane theory. Only a bomb or projectile caused the damage. So again, as I've been talking about over the last few nights, why does this matter? Well, if Flight 77 didn't hit the Pentagon, the official 9/11 story collapses completely. I can't remember the Latin phrase that they use in the legal profession, which means if one thing's wrong, it's all wrong. That applies to this. If Flight 77 didn't hit the Pentagon, then the official 9/11 story completely and utterly collapses. And there's also the lack of transparency. So we know that there was destroyed footage. We know that there was no wreckage of the Pentagon. It suggests very strongly a cover-up. So in conclusion, for this part of my deep dive, the CIA drug Pentagon connection, the CIA's drug operation funded Al-Qaeda, whatever happened to them? Gave them the leverage to stop 9/11, but they didn't. The Pentagon attack anomalies suggest a false flag or a stage event, and whistleblowers who exposed this were silenced or killed. So I'm going to give you almost a final theory. Was this a deep state operation? Now, the CIA protected drug networks that funded Osama bin Laden, especially in Afghanistan. It's the world's foremost producer of horse, whatever you want to call it, brown. But I'm not saying the word on here because you're not allowed to. The Pentagon attack was staged to blame Al-Qaeda. Maybe. And 9/11 was used to justify wars, surveillance, and oil grabs. As I've said before, and not many people have mentioned this, that Putin was at Bush's ranch in Texas within a week of 9/11, and they were agreeing to do the extract the oil and gas out of the Caspian Sea. And in 2001, conservative estimates were there was about 300 years worth of oil and gas under the Caspian Sea. And the Americans and the Russians built the pipeline from Afghanistan down south to a warm water port in Pakistan. That was a done deal within a week of 9/11. Now, remember, we'll go back away from the Pentagon to the World Trade Center's destruction and Israel's suspicious activities before 9/11, and even more layers to the unanswered questions surrounding the attacks. So here's a deep dive into evidence of exotic energy weapons, blue beam, anyone? At the WTC, and Israel's intelligence failures or possible foreknowledge. So let's get into the weaponry. Was the WTC World Trade Center destroyed by nuclear or directed energy weapons? Have you heard about the toasted cars and unexplained damage at the WTC nest of buildings? So cars blocks away from the WTC were toasted. And what I mean by that, the paint was burned off the cars, but the cars didn't have any fire damage. This is fact, but it's not been reported widely in the mainstream media. There are books by Dr. Judy Wood and her research around the toasted cars and frozen metal beams found in the rubble, suggesting instantaneous extreme heat. Now, we've been told, thermite. Well, maybe. Or other things. Oh, the airline fuel burned so ferociously that it just melted all the steam in steel in the buildings. But frozen metal beams found in the rubble. And then the rubble was kind of brushed away, put on barges, and taken away. Nobody knows where it's gone. Some of it was reused. But nobody told anybody about the barges that were taken away. I mean, this was a crime scene. Why would you fill the barges full of evidence of the crime of nearly 3,000 people that were killed on the day? There was all the dustification of concrete and steel turned into a fine powder mid-air. So I know what you're going to say to me now. Give me evidence of the nuclear or exotic weaponry, Reverend. So I'll give you isotopic evidence. What the bloody hell's that, Adrian? Well, an isotopic evidence could be strontium-90 and barium, B-A-R-I-U-M, barium in the WTC dust. And strontium-90 and barium were found by the United States. I don't know what the GS tests were, but these isotopes were signatures of nuclear reactions. Are you understanding that now? Because they don't put that in the 9/11 Commission. They didn't put that out in the modern day media. Nobody heard about strontium-90 and barium in the WTC dust that was found by tests. And these isotopes are signatures of nuclear reactions. They're not from bloody jet fuel or office fires. Remember, we were being told, oh, it's the office fires. It set all the paper off and it's burned the buildings down because it's, office fires. And everybody kind of, why did people swallow this? Who do they think they were? Bonnie Blue. You could have a look at the melted steel beams. Now, firefighters reported molten steel flowing like lava 4 weeks after 9/11. Can you not remember the American networks saying that they couldn't get into the underground tube stations because of the molten steel under there? And it was going to take weeks and weeks and weeks to cool it down for the firefighters to be able to get in there and see what damage there was. They didn't know what damage was underground. They just knew they couldn't get in because of the molten steel. So I'll just reiterate to you. Jet fuel burns at 800 Celsius. Steel melts at 1500 Celsius. So what caused this? Now, we are going to quite extreme theories here. But if you look at Maui, you look at some of the stuff that's happened in America over the last couple of years, some people have gone to this particular theory, the directed energy weapons, DEW theory. Now, Dr. Wood's hypothesis is there must have been a Scala weapon or Tesla-based energy beam vaporizing the towers. But it does kind of explain the symmetrical collapse or lack of debris and the dustification. Because the planes were never going to do that unless the planes had nobody on and they were they enabled the directed energy weapons. But it was so long ago, it was 24 years ago. Most people didn't even have that on their radar. It was just all bombs and bullets. That was war. Terrorist attacks, bombs and bullets, however they made the bombs up, but it was just bombs and bullets. And then all of a sudden, there's a hypothesis from Dr. Wood, who's a very knowledgeable woman, saying it was directed energy weapons. And it completely explained the symmetrical collapse, lack of debris, and dustification. All right, let's ask another question then. Why would they use exotic weapons, for want of a better term? Would it be to hide evidence of pre-planted explosives? Because remember, there was work ongoing in the towers in the week leading up to 9/11. There was workmen coming and going all day, all night in the week leading up to the attack. So the use of exotic weaponry, would that be to hide evidence of pre-planted explosives? And it would also ensure total destruction, preventing any forensic analysis of directed energy weapons or anything else. Strontium-90, barium. So let's look at that's, but I'm just offering this to you. It's for you to do your research, to get your own knowledge and understanding. It's not for me to literally give you all the answers, but I have worked diligently over the last few nights to give you enough information for you to gain understanding about and around what actually went on 9/11 in 2001. We have to have a look at Israel. We have to have a look at Israel's foreknowledge and suspicious activities. Are you aware of the dancing Israelis theory? Now, urban moving systems was a business that Israeli Mossad agents were posing as movers. Somebody that might want to move house, they would use urban moving systems. But there was an eyewitness that watched the collapse of the towers. And at the same time, below the window to her apartment, she was watching, she described them as Middle East looking, Arab looking. Israelis do look like that. But there was 5 of them, and they were giving each other high five. They were watching what was happening with the towers. They weren't watching what was happening behind them and above them in the apartments with somebody looking down and seeing the dancing Israelis, as they've now been termed. Somebody said 5 Israeli Mossad agents, they were posing as movers. So what exactly happened? They were filmed celebrating and filming the WTC attacks from New Jersey, from far enough away to see what was going on and then to be able to report back to their handlers. Now, the van that they were driving had explosives, multiple passports, and nearly $5,000 in cash in it. Now, these 5 dancing Israelis, so to speak, were arrested. They were held for 71 days and then deported. But they were never charged with anything. Explosives, multiple passports, and $5,000 in cash. That's a bit sus already. And Fox News confirmed these 5 Israelis and their Mossad ties. Story was buried. Wonder why that is. Had you heard of that before? Let me take some of your... Terry Wookford says their story was that they were told they were knocked off for the day and would be paid in full. At the time, they didn't know what had actually happened. They were deported because they had outstayed their welcome. Convenient. Oh, the visa had expired. Thank you, Terry. Interesting. Terry also says, funny how Atta Sr., the dad of Mohammed Atta, who was supposedly one of the ringleaders of the hijackers, one of the Saudis. It's funny how Atta Sr. said he phoned from Egypt, yet Atta himself was never heard of again, eh? Yeah. You don't raise your head parapet because it'll just get hammered down. So, can you imagine? Hello, Dad, it's me, Mo. I'm in Egypt. The reckoning, I flew one of those planes into the towers. Schoolboy error. Mind you, the narrative was that somebody had phoned Osama bin Laden. Can you remember the hotel in Boston where a brick is a military term of formation of soldiers? And a brick is kind of one of those military strategies for going into buildings safely and apprehending or doing whatever. But at the time, there was a hotel in Boston, and the world's media, they waited for the military in a brick to go into the hotel in Boston. And we were told categorically that somebody within that hotel had phoned Osama bin Laden to tell him about the operation. So the brick goes in, does whatever searches within the hotel, and then comes back out and goes, he's not here. Who? Dunno. What, the bloke that made the phone call to Osama bin Laden? Yeah. Couldn't find him. It was just theatre for the worldwide audience. That's all that was. So why would they do that? He rang Osama bin Laden. It was to put Osama bin Laden's name in the frame. Because how were they going to do that? Oh yeah, somebody made a phone call to him. Lord Wookfit says the dancing claim came from Mohammed Atta's father. He asked why they were blaming his son when it was Israelis who had committed the attack. He had heard about some Israelis celebrating and dancing, and that's because there was an eyewitness, a female eyewitness, that was looking out of her apartment and was looking at the towers coming down and saw 5 Middle Eastern Arab-looking men dancing and high-fiving in front of her apartment block. That's where it came from. So let's get to another theory. Now it's called the Odigo, O-D-I-G-O, Odigo instant messages. It's warning of the attack, before the attack. So it's an Israeli messaging company called Odigo. And what happened? Well, employees of Odigo in New York City received warnings of the attacks 2 hours before they happened. And the messages were traced to Israel. Now, this in itself, I don't think this is, until I started doing my research a few days ago, I'd never heard of this theory. I'd kind of heard of it, but didn't have the company's name. And the FBI investigated this and then dropped the case. NFA, if you will. But how can some employees of one company, as an Israeli company, actually receive warnings of the 9/11 attacks 2 hours before it happened? FBI just investigated it and dropped the case. Now, it could be, as I say, I'm giving you everything so that you can make your own minds up, but it could be that there were some people who kind of, well, it's not fear porn. It's people with such an event. It was such a catastrophic worldwide event. This was America being attacked. And as I say, a black swan event. Now, a black swan event is an event where the world is never the same afterwards. It's never been the same since. But I didn't hear anybody putting this out into the mainstream media, and I definitely didn't see the mainstream media talking about this in any way, shape or form. I was aware of the Israeli art student spy ring in 2001. There were dozens of Israelis posing as art students. And they visited the DEA, the FBI and military bases all before 9/11. And some of the Israeli art student spy ring in 2001 lived near the hijackers. But you know what happened? It wasn't necessarily NFA, but they were deported for espionage. I mean, it just feels like to me that there was an entity that was making sure they were cleaning up straight after the 9/11 attacks, so that there was only one natural narrative. A bit like the Kennedy assassination, it was a natural narrative that nobody was allowed to question. 9/11, again, nobody still to this day is allowed to question it. So this Israeli art student spy ring was deported for espionage, and no charges were filed. None. Nix. Nada. Nout. Zero. And then there was the Zim shipping company. It was, I said to you yesterday, there was a lot of very strange stock trades happening in the 4 or 5 days leading up to 9/11, certainly from the previous Thursday. And remember, 9/11 in 2001 was a Tuesday. So the Israeli-owned Zim American Israeli shipping, the stock looked a bit weird in the days leading up to 9/11. There were massive contracts exchanged before 9/11. And these put options, as I explained more simply last night, there was betting that the stock would drop. And this is not in the airlines. This is, so people were betting that the Zim shipping company, their stocks would drop. And trades for those shorts, as I know them, they were traced to Israeli intelligence-linked firms. So yet another tentacle going back to Israel. And as I say, why does this matter? Well, let's have a look at it. Israel had the most forewarning of any nation. Any nation. We know that America was being fed intelligence by various countries around the world. But Israel, not sure what that means, Nicholas. I'm kind of focusing on this, so I'll continue with this. So why does this matter? So, as I've just said, Israel had the most forewarning of any nation on planet Earth. Mossad agents were caught surveilling the attacks, the dancing Israelis. Seemingly, they were Mossad. And the US government protected them, the dancing Israelis, from prosecution. So would you say that this was a false flag with multiple players within the event, within the organization? WTC's destruction may have involved exotic weapons. Israel had prior knowledge and agents on the ground, on ground zero, and around the varying areas in New York City. And both suggest a coordinated operation beyond just Al-Qaeda. Whatever happened to them? So we'll get to the final theory-ish. A global deep state operation. Now, I'll preface before going into this detail that you wouldn't have believed the World Economic Forum existed for virtually the whole of its life until maybe the last 5 to 10 years. Everybody was talking about Bilderberg from 2000 and before. The World Economic Forum was never mentioned. But it's very writ large now in Davos. Everybody quotes it. And yet the Bilderberg group has disappeared. The Club of Rome disappeared. It's just all the World Economic Forum now. They're the bogeymen. They're the bad people, seemingly. Whether they are or not is a matter for conjecture. Tony Blair's on the board. So was this whole operation a global deep state operation? So in America, the neocons, the politicians, and Israel and Saudi Arabia collaborated to justify wars. I've said to you before, the strategy was to regime change in certain Middle Eastern states, get rid of the leaders of those states, and then drill for gas and oil, because it's gas and oil that's making people insanely wealthy in this modern global technocratic state. Now, it could be that exotic tech was used to ensure the towers fell cleanly. I don't believe that there is a human being on planet Earth that can tell me how WTC 1 and 2 and WTC 7 could fall in free fall and fall into its own footprint if it wasn't demolished cleanly. And then we had the whistleblowers who were silenced, evidence was destroyed. So let's go to some of the evidence that I gave you over the last 3 nights, very quickly. Who planted thermite in the WTC and why? Now, the presence of thermite or nanothermite in the WTC dust proves pre-planned explosives. There's no question. You can't question that fact. It proves, the dust proves pre-planned explosives were used to bring down the towers. But you have to, a bit like Marple or Columbo or any of the great detectives, you've got to ask certain questions to get to certain outputs and answers. So who had the means, who had the access, and who had the motive to plant it? Feels like being part of CID here. So who had the means, who had the access, and who had the motive to plant thermite and nanothermite? So what we're going to do is I'm going to break it down for you. And my first question is going to be, who could have planted thermite in the WTC? Could have been controlled demolition experts. An inside job theory? But how? Well, security protocols were bypassed. I said to you that there was work ongoing in WTC 1 and 2 the week before the attacks. So some of the security protocols may have been bypassed in the weeks before 9/11. There were some power downs in the WTC during the summer of 2001. Fact, there were power downs. So it would mean that if anybody wanted to get in there and do certain nefarious things, it gave them motive and opportunity. So contractors actually reported unusual work being done in the towers. Elevators, alarms, security cameras were shut off for maintenance during the summer of 2001. And Silverstein Properties, Lucky Larry, had demolition plans. And he also, days before 9/11, insured them for a terrorist attack. So Larry Silverstein, that I've mentioned over the last few nights, he was the WTC leaseholder, just in case you've forgotten. He took out a $7 billion insurance policy weeks before 9/11 and doubling coverage for terrorism. But who could have done this? A Controlled Demolition Inc. or similar firms? I'm not going to disparage individual firms, but I'm just giving you a sort of outline. A controlled demolition firm, experts in bringing down skyscrapers. WTC7 was not a small building. It had 40 odd floors. I mean, that alone, WTC7 was bigger than a whole load of hotels that we've got in this country. I mean, nobody could get anywhere near the two towers. Was it really black ops contractors, CIA, NSA linked? Just think about the CIA and what they do worldwide. Would they have done it in its own country? They're coming to take me away. Haha, they're coming to take me away. So could it have been black ops contractors? Let's look at them. So let's look at Israel's Mossad intelligence. So we could also take a false flag theory. And I know this is a pretty load of information overload, but I have to get all of the bits and pieces to you for you to consider. You've got a few weeks before 9/11. You can watch some of these again. That's why I leave them up here as historical documents. So let's look at the Israeli Mossad intelligence. False flag. So what would be the evidence? Dancing Israelis. Just mentioned them. Urban Moving Systems, which is an Israeli company seemingly, and Mossad agents filmed celebrating the attacks in New Jersey. There was the van that contained explosives, multiple passports, and nearly $5,000 in cash. If you want to be exact, it's 4,700. It's nearly $5,000 in Benjamins. You could look at the Odigo instant messages. The Israeli employees receiving warnings of the attack 2 hours before it happened. We could look at the Israeli art student spy ring. The dozens of Israelis posing as art students visited the DEA and FBI officers before 9/11. But motive is the most important thing. So what would be the motive for this attack? If I said to ensure the US went to war in the Middle East, benefiting Israel, would that have any resonance for you? We could talk about the Saudi intelligence, this proxy attack theory. So if you look at the hijackers, 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi. Saudi officials assisted hijackers. Remember, there were 28 redacted pages of the 9/11 inquiry detailing Saudi government support. And again, the motive? To provoke the US into removing Saddam Hussein, a Saudi enemy. And they did eventually, after they secured the Kurdish oil fields in the north of Iraq. But what we haven't considered so far is a deep state theory. This could have been rogue United States military or intelligence factions. Now, these military drills, there was 3 different military exercises ongoing on the morning of 9/11, on September 10th, September the 11th. I've already described them to you previously. They were Vigilant Guardian, Northern Vigilance. They paralyzed NORAD so that the jet fighters who would have defended American airspace and American assets, they were delayed by over 20 minutes. And there was also the Able Danger program that identified the hijackers in 2000, and the data from that was deleted. There was FBI's Bin Laden unit, Alex Station as it was known. It was shut down before 9/11, and then the American government went, Osama bin Laden, Osama bin Laden. I mean, as a little aside, do you believe that Navy SEALs, American Navy SEALs, went and found Osama bin Laden, killed him, and then chucked him overboard? Because, well, he was an Arab, so he needed to be buried within 24 hours. And nobody took any pictures. Do they think we're stupid? In a nice, neat bow. And nobody questioned it. So again, what would be the motive of a deep state theory of a rogue US faction, military or intelligence? Well, it would justify the Patriot Act, as was brought in straight after 9/11. Wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and, because of the Patriot Act, mass surveillance. So let's break down the motive. Why would they do it? Suspect, motive, evidence. So US Black Ops, as I've already said, they were able to justify the war on terror. the military-industrial complex. Military drills confused NORAD on the morning. The FBI and CIA blocked investigations into Israeli and Mossad intelligence. And the US just invaded Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq. America became Israeli attack dogs to clean up the Middle East. And now we see in 2025, because some of the things that happened in 2001 are just being and are coming to fruition. So who would this benefit? Well, it benefits Israel in the Middle East. And it would also silence critics of America and Israel. So was there an alliance there? Was it multiple organizations, multiple countries? The dancing Israelis were caught filming the attacks. Odigo staff were told to get out. They got warnings before 9/11. Saudi Arabia wanted Saddam Hussein removed from leading Iraq. It protected the oil interest. 15 Saudi hijackers, 28 redacted pages linking Saudi officials. There was the Wall Street elites. There was the insurance payouts to Lucky Larry Silverstein. I mean, I'm not sure whether I would call it insurance fraud, because insurance companies are very reticent about paying out. But there was a $7 billion payout to Lucky Larry. No bloody wonder he was called Lucky. There was the insider trading profits that nobody investigated. Silverstein's pull it comment. And the Securities Exchange Commission put option spikes. They were very well aware. They monitor everything. They were very well aware what was going on the trading floor. So what's the most likely scenario? Are you now thinking it's going to be a coalition of the US, neocons, Israeli intelligence, and Saudi proxies? Did they work together? Thermite was planted during power downs in summer 2001, and nobody knew what was going to happen on 9/11. So why would they be suspicious about workmen coming in, powering down, and putting thermite on the steel in the Twin Towers? Because again, there was a load of work that needed doing. There were the military drills on the morning of 9/11. They ensured no interception of hijacked planes. And the attacks were used to justify wars, surveillance, and financial gains. So are you now thinking it was a deliberate demolition? Because I'll tell you this, Sherlock, thermite doesn't appear by accident. It was planted. Only insiders with WTC access could have done it. And the official story is a cover-up. So my final answer, to round off this massive deep dive into 9/11 and what went on, and all of this is in the public domain. All of this I have found with my own research. All the names, everything. Witness statements, everything. I mean, the amount of research I've done, I should write a bloody book. But then again, it's one of those spaces where a load of people have written books about various parts of the 9/11 attacks. So what do I think? I would suggest very strongly, well, somebody's just said they could have had it in their luggage. But surely you take thermite. I mean, have you tried getting anything through security at any of our airports in this country and or America? I mean, the Patriot Act, they just battened down all of the airports in America. You couldn't fart in the wrong direction in America. And I'm sure it wasn't that lax before. But it would be interesting. I wonder if that was a possibility. But nobody's thought about that. But then again, there was nobody on the planes. Global Hawk. Honestly, just do your research about Global Hawk. That's a lifetime's work in itself. But Global Hawk meant that jet fighter pilots could sit in an Air Force base in a hangar and fly those planes into the towers and nobody would know. Because why would you get anybody to fly 757s into WTC 1 and 2 and kill yourself? You just wouldn't, would you? So it's a very simple final answer. All of this was a US, Israeli, Saudi alliance, likely orchestrated, and they likely orchestrated 9/11 to trigger wars, crush civil liberties, and most importantly, follow the money. They would profit financially. So before I go on to other subjects, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has indulged me these last 4 nights, because I do think it's important that we get to some understanding. Now, we know there are brave souls, whistleblowers, witnesses that disappeared, died, because that official narrative has never been questioned, ever. Rich, thank you. I really appreciate that. Many thanks for doing this work, Adrian. Really enjoyed listening to it. I will try and put it all together. So it's a nice little podcast of however many hours. But I'll look at it and see, because look, if people can watch Rogan for 3 hours, I'm not quite sure they would want to see this ugly fizzog, but face or radio, I don't care. But the information that I've given you over the last 3 or 4 days gives you an insight beyond any narrative that's been put out there by the American government and or other governments. I remember the day. I remember it vividly. I was on air. I was on the radio. I was in the gym when the planes went into the towers. I then literally didn't shower. I got myself into work, into real radio, to kind of work out with the management what I was going to do that night. They knew that I would have a different take on what was being put out. We as a radio station were carrying some New York radio stations just because they may get facts ahead of us. We were monitoring all of the news sources around the world, every single news source. We were on the ticker tape from all of the news sources in this country, and we were just trying to work out, because nobody knew what it was. Although some of the Americans thought it was a terrorist attack within half an hour of the planes going into the towers. I'm being facetious, but very quickly afterwards. And yet, journalists on this side of the pond were not sure what was going on and couldn't say what they thought was going on, simply because to say anything other than the official narrative would have got you sacked. So everybody went along with it. But I had the privilege and honour of being able to monitor all of the news sources and just cherry pick the bits and pieces that I now know to be fact. That's how I can do this research and go, yeah, we need to do that. I'd heard of the dancing Israelis. I'd not heard of the Odigo staff that had got the... I'd heard a rumour within a couple of days, oh yeah, there was some staff didn't go to work, or they left on the day because they were told to leave. And it was just one of those urban myths. But 24 years later, we can now get to the real nub of what went on. And maybe there were more. If you look at JFK, if you look at the death of Marilyn Monroe, and I have recorded an interview with a wonderful man called Mark Shaw. He's one of the foremost experts on the death of JFK and Marilyn Monroe. And it's going to be coming on this channel soon. But at the time, we weren't as sophisticated as we are now. We haven't had... The iPhone only came out in 2008. It was still 7 years ahead of real smartphones. We were still raggy-arsed in 2001. Technical term, obviously. But some of us watched it with very cynical eyes. And my breath was taken away. I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was like a Hollywood movie. It was like something you would only ever see if you went to the cinema. And there we were, watching it on our TVs, in our living rooms, in David Lloyd's, gyms, or at work. The whole world stopped. This was a major black swan event. And the world has never been the same since. So again, thank you. Thank you for your indulgence. I really wanted to do this. And I enjoyed doing the research. I love it. So maybe we'll do more of that. Maybe we'll do more interviews. I know that Ghetto Defendant's interview on Sunday was very, very, very well received. And the stats tell me that it was very well received. So yes, I'd love to do more interviews around stuff that either I know or have a passion about, because I know the audience that, Ghetto Defendant is in the body of the Kirk this evening. So I will only, I think on Sunday, I may ask this question: who do you want me to interview? In fact, why don't we do it now? If there's anybody off the top of your head that you would like to see me interview, or subject matters you would like, thank you, Theo Bovril. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and it's made enjoyable by the audience. The body of the Kirk makes it all worthwhile. Paulie Galtieri says, David Icke, you know that I've interviewed him before. I've actually been in touch via his website. I have his home telephone number. I think if I call him and go, hello, David, my name's Adrian, he might just freak out a bit. But I have got his, personal numbers. I mean, I know his son Gareth is friend of close friends. So, yes. Ooh, I see you, says, interview Lord Wookfit. No spangles, no free spangles though, Terry. Charlie Vitch, yeah. Nicholas, yeah, absolutely. Stuart, thank you for all your great work. Really enjoyed learning a lot. Thank you, Stuart. Do you think I should call you Bar Stuart now? Be a funny nickname. Stuart Sydenham says, Stuart, just in case you're a first timer, I always pop everybody's cherry. Angelic Inspirations, well, we'll get a hold of Charlie. I mean, he's the modern day shock jock. Stuart Sydenham says, Paul Sinclair, Truth Proof is a good listen on the UFO topic. Somebody else has been, Tommy Robinson says, Phil Levan. Benjamin Netanyahu says, Garen Davis. Garen, can you imagine? I mean, I saw something today. They're absolutely after him now. They want him in court for corruption charges and all kinds of stuff. So Netanyahu is not long, but I think that's why they need peace from Russia and Ukraine. Billy Moore, fascinating fella. Paulie, that is funny. Paul Joseph Watson. What's the relevance, Andrew? Paz 49. Good shout, Lionel, because Paz is a good man, a very good man. Do you know? Sometimes Paz is in the body of the Kirk. I'll get in touch with him tomorrow, saying, because Paz has got a great story, got a great away from what he does with YouTube and stuff. He's got a fantastic story, and he's Welsh, and I love the Welsh. So, DJE Media or Billy Moore. Okay. By the way, tomorrow is the 80th anniversary of VJ Day. Thank you, David Graham, which marked the end of the Second World War. And do you know who's making his speech tomorrow night? Yeah, Charles the Weak. He's going to do a VJ 80th addressing the nation. Why? Ooh. Thank you, Andrew. PJW did a lot of work with Alex Jones on 9/11. Oh, Ghetto Defendant says, I'd love to watch an interview with Francis Chusa. Very knowledgeable around the military stuff. Would love to hear his view on Russia versus Ukraine, etc. Martin, thank you, Ghetto Defendant. Martin says, yes, Paz 49. Yeah, we'll get him on. We'll get him on. I'm not going to speak out of school because Paz and I message each other every now and again, just about random stuff. Stuart says, Andy the Gabby Cabby. Yeah, I'm aware of Andy. And what else did you say? Okay. Hang on. Yeah. Has Paz just messaged us something? Angelic Inspirations, you're very, very kind. Angelic Inspiration says, love Adrian Allen's show, though. Well, these are not, every live. we're just adding different flavors to stuff so that you get the interviews, you get the lives, you get the interviews that I'm going to get back to, not the interviews, the daily videos that I'm going to get back to, and other stuff. Because it's all just, trying things out, see what works, see if the audience likes it or takes it, so to speak. Billy Moore is the same as Veach. He's written a book and had a film made of his life. Ooh, Rusty's Roamings, yeah, definitely. DJE Media is an interesting guy. Okay. Simon Sideways, yeah. Is he really a reverend? Very intelligent guy though, Simon. History Debunked, yeah. Again, you see, I love all the different styles of people. Simon driving his truck, History Debunked. History Debunked is so beautifully precise with his words. As a communicator, it's beautiful to watch. I love it. But I love everybody's style. Paz's has got a very distinct style. Trevor Colt. Trevor was in the body of the Kirk a few weeks ago. So we'll see if we can get Trevor on. Silver Fox updates. Got to be careful, Soul Rebel, because I think Silver Fox is in a bit of a quandary at the moment. But no, it's Silver Fox hot takes. I'd have to, well, if he agreed to come on, we'd have to make sure that there was nothing there that could queer anything else, if you know what I mean. And Professor Tim Wilson, thank you, Stuart. Professor Tim was very generous when I started this channel. He just called it superb, which is very kind of the professor. And yes, I'd love to speak to him about his background and his political background. Have a look at the film A Prayer Before Dawn. I will do Rusty's Roamings. Is it on the streaming services? Where would I find it? Don Wigley, interesting. When will the scandal that ends the broken broadcasting company come? Retro's just arrived. Ahoy, Retro. Welcome to the body of the Kirk, sir. We're just, in fact, you might have to go back to the beginning and watch it again, because I've spoken to June Taylor, Lauren. She kind of wanted to know more about the channel, but I think once I start doing interviews more and more and more, people will see that I'm on their side, and I don't do people's knees in interviews. I don't need to go in aggressively. I want to find out about the person, because they all have stories, and I want to. It's like with Ghetto Defendant. Ghetto Defendant was wonderful on Sunday, and the reason why I chose Ghetto Defendant was A, he's part of the body of the Kirk. B, he knows the channel, and he was erudite and beautifully informative. And that's all I'm after. I don't need to go and squabble and argue. I've told you before, I nearly had a stand-up fight with Meatloaf, and the question that I asked him was an innocuous question just about whether his daughter would go into rock and roll. Boof! Off he went. So he must have been off his tits on something. But I didn't know that. I was just in Chinese television in Newcastle, and he just... And it, as I say, it must have made a commotion, because I was like, I'm not taking that from you. And the PR from the record company kind of popped his head around and said, everything okay, chaps? Go. I'm going. So I went in and then spoke to John Parr. And I wasn't trying to do anybody's knees, because if you get a reputation like Piers Morgan sometimes, where you're just being aggressive for aggressive sake, it might get you clicks and likes and subs, but that's not what this channel is about. This channel is about context, understanding, and knowledge. And if I can help you get any of those by what I publish here or interview here, we've got the Jeremy Vine interview coming. I've delayed it slightly for varying reasons, but I've got a 3-part Jeremy Vine interview, and some of what he says is very interesting. But I wasn't going to go, Jeremy, your bikes and stuff, and just being nasty to people. Absolutely, categorically, gets you nowhere doing that, because then you scare other people off and other people won't come on. So all I'm after is stories. That's very good, Ghetto Defendant. Meatloaf left like a bat out of hell, but the album version with the piano intro. Pity Cosmo Small Piece isn't around to interview. Oh yeah, Les. Oh, Les Dawson. Can you imagine? Bruce Unfiltered. He's even wrote a book on the corrupt palace of... Really? Tower 69? I'll have a look at that. So thank you for all of your suggestions. I'll go through them and start chatting with people. And once my reputation is a little more enhanced around how I do interviews, my style of interviews, then people will come on and just have a dance, just have a laugh. Don Wigley, what do you think will happen to the license fee? Well, it's a tax, Don Wigley. As the final question this evening, it's a tax. And the tax, all of the license fee monies goes to the government. And then the government pays the BBC. So do we think that all of the money from the license fee goes to the BBC? No. Brilliant. King 7 Meatloaf's funeral, they had a 13-minute silence. In Bonnie Blues. I would even... What about Sonia Poulton? About peas in Parliament and Maddie McCann? Yeah. I'll... You see, part of the thing is, some people know that I've done professional radio and thereby late night phone-ins, and I was very controversial when I was on air. So maybe, but ooh, I'm getting pixelated. Wonder what that is. So rather than keep you, yeah, Soul Rebel, like you say, Aid, it's a chat about stories, not gotchas. That's exactly it. And they do say, I'm watching the channel via the page, and it's pixelated, and it shouldn't. I don't know why that's happening. But thank you to everyone that's been here. Rounding off of the 9/11 information. You've enjoyed that this evening. Was there anything else I was going to tell you? Stand by, caller. I'll wrap things off very quickly. That one, yeah. I told you about Hunter Biden. Yeah, I've told you about all of that. Let me have a look at your chat so I can get some names and then start working on that. As I say, third birthday is coming around in September, beginning of September. So it would be nice to get some folk on for the third birthday. Hopefully it'll be a Sunday. But so thank you for your likes. Blimey, tough audience tonight. Smash the likes just to get 100 if you wouldn't mind. Thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but as ever, of all your indulgence. My name's Adrian Allen. This is the Theatre of Mind, Theatre of the Mind. And whatever you do, wherever you go, stay safe. Don't forget the Battenberg. It makes the jam sweat, which peeled the marzipan off. So your Battenberg got a right state. And that's not a euphemism either. So as I say, whatever you do, wherever you go, stay safe. And this might be the Theatre of the Mind. Remember, it's not a show. This is a mission. And we go again, 7:30 Sunday night. See you then.